Hi, I'm Hannah Mize, and I'm a teacher here in Texas, and I'm so glad that you could join us this evening, and actually not so much this evening, but you're joining us with this link, and we are definitely going to send this out for you to be able to see. And these are our musical musings for the future. So without further ado, here's Lauren.
Hi, everybody. My name is Lauren Summa, and I'm an elementary school music teacher in Alvin, Texas at Passmore Elementary School. In fact, I'm in my classroom right now, and you can see behind me, all my instruments are ready for the summer. It doesn't usually look quite this sad, but you know how things are right now. I have taught for 21 years. My favorite thing to talk about with teachers is behavior management. In the way back dinosaur times, I got a master's degree in teaching with internet technologies. So this has been really kind of fun for me to bring up all that old information. And I can't wait to talk to you guys. I'm gonna pass it over to Denise Gagne.
Hi, I'm Denise Gagne, and I think I'm the old one here because this is now my 42nd year of teaching. I've been teaching since before most of you were born, and my current teaching is guest teaching in people's classrooms because I've developed the music play curriculum and now music play online. And since the pandemic, I have been busier than I've ever been writing all these virtual lessons in the online learning modules to keep kids going, and doing lots of Zoom. I'm sure everybody else has too. I think the most fun days of the pandemic for me were the 2 days that I babysat my 4 grandchildren and homeschooled twin 6-year-olds, a 10-year-old, and a 14-year-old who every time I turned my back had his phone out and was messaging his friends. So that was fun. That was March 17th and 18th. So I'll pass this on to Michele.
Hi, my name is Michele Hobizal, and I taught for 31 years. So I absolutely loved teaching music. Now I work for Quaver as an instructional coach and clinician, which means I get to now share my love of teaching with other teachers to pass that love on to their students. So I do work for Quaver, and we have been incredibly busy also, just as much as Denise has, because we've been working also with our teachers on how they can incorporate everything they have with their distance learning. So I am super excited to talk about all we have going on, possibilities for you. We're going to give you ideas, anything that we can think of, we're going to share them with you. And now I'm going to pass it on to Katie.
Friends, I'm Katie Grace Miller, and I teach in Orlando, Florida. I just completed my 15th year of teaching. I teach in a Title I school with low to middle income students. We have a really interesting kind of population where I live in the district of my school, and so we've got great middle class families, and then we have Section 8 housing in a certain area, and kids that don't have any support at home, and then kids that have tons of support at home. So I've got kind of run of the gamut when it comes to the breadth of kids that I service. And I've been writing resources that have been in y'all's classrooms, hopefully, which has been really great, and was able to utilize those in a virtual format for the live Zoom sessions. As Denise said, there was lots of Zoom, and I have a 2nd grader and a 4th grader. So not only have I been teaching online, but also homeschooling, and never say never, because I said that I would never use fractions again, but apparently that was wrong. And I had to teach fractions to my 4th grader, and that was horrible.
Me next, because I think I've forgotten how to do that.
Oh yeah, it's I have as well, and so thankfully I have a friend who's a math teacher, so we called her a lot, but it has been quite an experience, but I am looking forward to the future, which is why we're here today.
All right, and one more. Miss Hannah, can you introduce yourself?
Hannah, sorry. I was supposed to pass it on.
Way to go, Katie.
So my name is Hannah Mize, and I am an educator in Pflugerville ISD at the moment, and we'll be moving over to Georgetown ISD for this next school year. And I've just finished my 14th year of teaching, and like everyone else, this year was quite an adventure. I've had 3 kids at home that I've been homeschooling as well, 2 middle schoolers and a high schooler, and it's been quite an adventure with trying to share computers and making sure that everybody is getting all of their stuff done, which they don't want to always do it, especially when they're older. And as we were going through all this, I was able to reach out to fellow teachers, and I have reached out to a couple of the people in this panel actually to ask questions as we were doing things. And I just thought, you know, what a great way to be able to move forward in a very positive note, because there have been some really, really great things that have been happening in our classrooms, even with this going on. And so I contacted these ladies, and they were so gracious to all say yes and to participate in this little panel discussion. So thank you very much for helping us along this evening. I'm very excited that y'all are here.
Well, thank you for the invitation, Hannah. It's awesome. So tonight, we're not really going to be talking about where we are now, because we all know where we are now. We're in the middle of it. And so somehow we're all coping. But tonight we're here to discuss how you can deal with the uncertainty that the future holds. So there's not much about the situation you can control, but hopefully this panel will be able to give you some good ideas, some concrete things you can do to sort of empower yourself and help you move with fluidity and grace into whatever comes this next school year. And to start us off, we have an amazing message from the amazing Artie Almeida. Somewhere.
I know I've got to share my screen really quickly.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, kudos to all of you for still being functional after the cataclysmic semester that just ended. I'm sure that most of you are exhausted and approaching the end of the year with a combination of relief and grief. My family always turned to music and humor for solace, so that's what I offer you now. The parody I bring you today is set to the melody of my favorite things. How ironic. I apologize for repeating the A section melody ad nauseum. And now I present to you a Corona comic opera. Virtual choirs and solo submissions, saving us all from those COVID transmissions. Safety comes first, but we sure miss our kids. We've said bad words about big bad COVID. Video edits that cause double vision. Kids who don't show up cause no supervision. Dry eyes from screen time and bladders that ache. This distance learning is no piece of cake. Recording new lessons for hours each day. Helping your students still sing, dance, and play. Dealing with that most annoying delay. And some naughty kids making your hair go gray. Sitting all day and your tushies are flat. In our normal lives there was no time for that. Slow internet that we hold in disdain. But we know our lessons are keeping kids sane. Crying for concerts and field trips lost. Sad for all of the emotional cost. Virtual ensembles have brought us good cheer, but we're sad that we cannot finish the year. Looping their pictures while kids go and play. We just can't believe the things we've had to say. I made a little sampling for you of the things that have been said commonly, perhaps even in your room. Here's a small sampling. Can you hear me now, boys and girls? Can you hear me now? Wave at me if you can hear me now. Please mute your mics. Mute, mute, mute. Still waiting on you, honey. Mute your mic. No eating while we Zoom, boys and girls. No, oh no, do not take your computer into the bathroom with you. Please stop licking your screen. Pants, please. Pants are not optional in here. Pants, no. Please remind your mommy not to use bad words while we're having class. You know I can see you playing that video game, right? Eyes on me, not Minecraft. Right here, right now, right here. And there's some over-the-top things also that have been seen and heard. I picked 4 for you out of a multitude of them. Some really, really bad hair days. Some things have been scary. Sibling flashers. Okay, that's always game changer. Not a lot of instruction happens after that runs through the room. Loud toots from parents and siblings. What in the world is that? And my favorite, a toddler conducting with tampons. Yes, you've seen it all, haven't you? For music and arts, this system's insane. You brought your A game, but remote's not the same. We'll put 1 foot forward and plan our encore, 'cause music is needed like never before. We hope next year We're all healthy with COVID at bay. Our students with us, and we all sure can say we reached out and seized the day. Hooray! You know what? God bless all of you for all the amazing things you've done during these challenging times. Stay safe.
Great job, Artie.
Yay!
Hey, bravo, bravo.
Fabulous.
Well, we can just stop the webcast now because that was amazing.
He hit it off.
I think she hit it all, including tampon conducting, which I didn't expect to come up, but it did somehow. Well, we're on that note, we're going to continue. And so we're going to start by talking about how we can structure our school year to prepare for cancellations and steps you can take at the beginning of the year to ensure success. And I'm going to go ahead and start blabbing because I love talking. All my friends out there, you know it's true. So the one thing I'm really planning on doing next year, like Katie, I teach in a Title I school, and a lot of my students were pretty invisible this spring. Once school got canceled, my special education students, my students who live in less than ideal circumstances, I didn't hear from them. So I'm going to try to empower them to be at-home music makers, and I'm going to start by finding out how they already make music at home. What do they do with their families? I'm going to start from there and try to build a routine and teach them how they can initiate music making themselves with their family. So, or I think Orff does this really well. I'm the course director for the Alvin ISD Orff levels. And, you know, whenever you start with play on all your music making, this is something really easy to transition at home. So teaching kids a hierarchy and order of how they can turn everyday events into celebrations and make music with their families is something I'm really passionate about, and I hope to do this next year. And I'll go in order like I did before. Hey, Denise, what do you have to add to this?
Well, I think one of the first things that I did a whole webinar, 60 minutes, on kind of this topic last night, and you'll get a link to it. But one of the things I talked about was the fact that we're not going to be able to share materials next year. So I've made up 2 versions of my instrument kit. This is the deluxe version, and I'm suggesting to teachers that they go and inventory all the instruments that they already have in their classrooms. You probably have enough to make up kits for 100 kids. And then if you don't have enough for all the students that you teach, because I know already taught 1,100, what do? Then you go to the do-it-yourself version. So in my webinar, I gave people a link to where you can buy chopsticks for 8 cents a pair, and they look to be fairly decent ones. Egg shakers, I gave them a link to Amazon where you can buy 288 egg shakers for $20 Canadian. That's only $15 US. And then pool noodle scrapers. And you know, they don't even sound terrible. They actually sound really quite nice when you get going on these things. So I can't go into any great detail here, but I think making up these instrument kits and having them ready to go, it looks like in our Canadian schools, a lot of the teachers are going to be on a cart going to the children's classrooms. And so if the kids have these instruments already in their classroom, in the little tub that's by their desk, you don't have to hand anything out. And there's tons of activities that you can do with these, and that's basically what my webinar last night was all about. But
and Denise, I like the way you use some found objects in there, like the pool noodles, and I think that's something pretty easy for the kids to replicate at home for when the cancellations do happen.
Or, I mean, these only cost, I figure the cost of this is 20 cents. I could just send it with the kids when they go home. And then if I'm doing Zoom lessons with them, I could do a Zoom storybook lesson with them and say, get your instrument kits out. And that would be a very easy way to transition to it. But yes, the webinar last night has lots of these ideas. I want to say one thing, and this is Artieism, one of my favorites. It's not hard, it's just new. What we're going into is difficult and challenging, but what you've just been through since March has been unbelievable. I don't think any of us ever expected to see this in our teaching careers. So you can do it. It's not hard, it's just new. And I'll pass on to Michele.
Oh, thank you. Oh, I love the ideas because I love using chopsticks and pool noodles. In fact, I remember Artie talked about when she retired, she had tons of stuff everywhere. Well, I do too. So I've got all my stuff. But another thing for you to think about is, a lot of you were saying that you spent so much time making things. And then, like Lauren said, you had a little bit of, you had some that participated and some did not. But just keep in mind, it's not personal. You don't know the situations of the kids. Some of them you do know the situations. It may be, a lot of times we're talking about kids may not have internet and they may not have, but I came across a family where dad's a doctor, mom's a nurse, and they're coming home after being at the hospital all day long and they're exhausted. And so one of the things you might want to think about during the summer is be prepared. If you've got kids that are not going to be on the internet, then go into the curriculum that you have and look at what printables do you have that maybe you could have ready. Maybe when you have printables going out, you may want to go ahead and even scan them. So if you do have lessons where you're online and you want to show both, because Lauren is right. You've got to think about the ones that do have internet and the ones that don't. So you may want to offer an activity, even though they've got the internet. Here's what you can do with this printable. So, do a little smattering of all of that. Don't feel like you have to reinvent the wheel, because, oh my goodness, people, I've had the best time going on to Facebook groups, seeing what you have come up with maybe all the stuff you've got or none of the stuff you've got because you didn't have time to grab anything because a bunch of you were on spring break and you couldn't go to your classroom. But you came up with an awful lot of things. I would say the goal thinking about for the beginning of the year is really pay attention to a lot of different groups that you can learn from, see what other people have done, also talk to other people about what they're doing. There may be one person that has this amazing example, Lauren, and then she's developed this, if you haven't looked at Lauren's stuff on Facebook, it's amazing.
I really got into green screen for a while. I was trying to think of ways my students actually go online again, starting where they are. And, some of my students only get to spend 30 minutes on their parents' phone in the evening. So I didn't know if they'd be able to get online and do modules, but I knew they could watch a YouTube video. And I tried to make those videos as engaging as possible. And my friends on Facebook know I had a lot of mishaps that I shared, including one where my eyes disappeared and it looked really zombified and awesome. I didn't share that one with the kids, but it was engaging. And so think of ways you can pull those kids in to where they want to come see you. It's their must do for the day. Sorry, Michelle, go ahead.
No, she's absolutely right. I mean, that is very true. But just keep in mind that they're all going to be different, all the different things they've got. If you want to dive in like Lauren did and you want to do the green screen and you want to be Cherie Herring, who I absolutely love what she creates too, go for it. But at the same time, if you're going, I don't have an idea on this, I'm not sure, don't feel like you have to be where everybody else is. You've got to be where you think is right for you and for your kids. And that's why, we've got lessons that we've invented that people could already use. We've got assignments people have. You can go on and look what everybody else has got. But don't feel like you have to start completely from scratch, because everybody is here to help you in every possible way we can.
And Michelle, I would like to say what you brought up is a really important point, that teachers can serve as curators of online content that is already there. And that's really important to look at Denise's stuff, look at Quaver's stuff. And I'm sure Katie is about to mention some beautiful things that you can curate for your students too. Let's hear Katie. You are muted, Katie.
My lovely basset hound decided to come in and start groaning and making all sorts of noises, so I muted myself because I figured nobody wanted to hear that. He's now sleeping. So, but with my curriculum, and which I basically pull from all sorts of places. I don't focus on one specific thing. I've got some of my stuff. I've got some of Artie's stuff. I use a specific Quaver video. I've got music play. I've got stuff that I learned from when I went to TMEA or FMEA, and throw it all together into a conglomeration. And I wanted to make sure that I kept it as much to my regular classroom as I possibly could. I wanted it to be very familiar to my students. And I think, again, as Michele said, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. I set up my dining room chairs in my family room. I grabbed 2 of my giraffes I have Jenny the giraffe, who is our mascot in the music room, and I grabbed 2 of her friends because Jenny is a 6-foot tall giraffe that I couldn't bring home with me. And I put them behind me, and I turned on my iPad, and I actually had a senior intern this semester, God bless her. And she is trying to find a job right now. And so we quarantined together, basically, so that she could be a part of those videos as well. And I looked at what I had planned already. I looked at what my curriculum said. This is what I would be teaching dynamics right now, or I would be teaching meter right now, or I would be teaching, this right now. And we shortened it so that it wasn't, of course, I have my good 45 minutes in the classroom, but we shortened it. We did little snippets. We pulled what we felt like we could. My kindergarten video always started with my hello song that I sing with them in the classroom. And we found Steady Beat, and I became Mickey Mouse from Mickey Mouse Clubhouse and Dora the Explorer, and asking them, all right, boys and girls, where's your next spot for the Steady Beat? That's a great spot. Great job. I love that idea. And which every single one of you, I'm sure, is nodding their head and going, oh my gosh, yes, that was totally me. But it wasn't all new. But I did have the option to be able to go onto the Facebook group and say, hey, or one of my, music teacher friends maybe found something, or we had our amazing county did gifts where we had music teachers go online, and we had essentially Zoom meetings, and they would share what they've done, and then we shared it with everybody. So maybe you find that one thing that you can grab and say, yes, that works perfectly. But still, for this new year, I think the most important thing to remember is it's still a year. It's still a school year. It's still music. It's still the same curriculum and the same standards that you would be teaching if the students would be right in front of you. So don't go trying to, as Michele said, make all of these, amazing things. Again, the green screen, if you have that ability, God be with you, and I'm super jealous of you. Mm-hmm. But that's not me. I've as Hannah and I were talking earlier, we both have kids at home that we're trying to homeschool at the same time. And if I can't be interrupted for 5 minutes, it's like the best thing ever. So that's what I'm focusing on and wanting to work with what I have. But I think the most important thing is to remember that it's still a school year. Just because maybe we don't start right in front of the kids at first, but you want to bring everything that you would bring to them if they were right in front of you, to the best of your ability. And there's always a way. There's always a way that we can figure it out. And I'm sorry, but if anybody's going to figure it out, it's going to be music teachers or teachers in general. Okay. I can't say how many times I saw a meme where it was like, they always say, like, Chick-fil-A, if they let Chick-fil-A, the people who figure out their drive-through run the world, we'd all be, well, if they just handed it over to teachers and said, hey, we're having this issue, teachers, they wouldn't be spending months trying to figure it out. Teachers would have it done in 3 days. So know that you have that ability, and know that there are people around you, no matter where you are teaching, that are able to help you through it 100%.
Katie, you totally pumped me up. I'm ready to go take on the world.
That's right, because you can. You're totally able to do. You probably already have with all of your cool green screens.
Well, here are the things I learned. If you look on Amazon, they sell green screen gloves, which can make your puppets come to life and dance around. And you can also put green fabric around your neck and make your head look like it is floating around. And if you want to see these awesome videos.
Lauren. When you did the eyes, that was creepy looking. Yeah.
If you want to see some of these fun videos, you can look at our specials team has a YouTube channel. And you talked about being the children's show host. We did a Mr. Rogers kind of show for PE art and music every week. And then we linked to our Google Classrooms with separate activities. So if you go to Passmore Specials on YouTube, you can see all the weird stuff I'm talking about. And we're going to move on. Hey, I'm sorry, Hannah, go ahead.
No, we will also make sure to link all of this information so that you'll be able to go back and go find Facebook pages and YouTube links and all that so you can see what we're talking about.
Right.
Hannah's a miracle worker. All right, so let's move on. So let's talk about prioritizing teaching standards. So Katie talked about, this is a regular school year, teach what you were going to teach because the kids will miss it if you skip over it. One of the things my team has been talking about is how we are going to sort of revamp our scope and sequence so that we can hit the standards that have to happen in a group, like part work. We're going to hit that hard when the kids are here, and we're going to leave things like EGBDF for virtual learning, because those are things that are easy to happen at home. And I can't wait to hear what our illustrious panel has to say. Denise, what do you have?
What do I have? Well, I always say that in music class, we sing, move, play, listen, read, write, and create. And the singing, I think, I don't know about in Texas, but I know in Alberta, they are recommending against singing. So what I am suggesting to teachers that they try and do is to flip the singing so that kids do it at home. We had a teacher from Belgium who came on our webinar last night. She's back in school for the first week with her kids. So she has a class that's divided into two cohorts. She has one class 1 week and the other part of the class the next week. So, and she has to virtual teach. She had a word for it, where you combine live and virtual. So there's going to be all sorts of configurations next year. But I think because we won't be able to do as much singing in class, what I am suggesting is that you focus on the other musical skills. You play instruments, which is why I put together these instrument kits. And you do some movement, and you can do movement in place. There's lots of ideas. I'm sure Quaver has lots. Music Play Online, we have a whole dance unit that has all sorts of movement in place ideas. I'm racking my brain and figuring out how I can adapt singing games where normally we would hold hands and change them into games that we can do no touch. And so that's things that I'm sort of working around, because like Katie, I want to do the same things that I've always done. I'm just having to figure out new ways of doing it. And if anybody's good improvisers, it is music teachers. If you're thinking about the national standards, the creating, we can still do that. The classes that we've seen that have gone back have been distant. So the kids are 6 feet apart. So they're not close together. But that doesn't mean you can't give them word rhythm cards and have them create a composition or have them create accompaniments to a storybook. All those things we can still do. So they can create. They can still respond to music. This is a great time to pull out all the listening examples that you've ever wanted to do with your kids and have them respond to the music in all sorts of creative and interesting ways. And then connecting. We can explore cultures virtually through YouTube. The performing end of things, I think we're going to be doing lots of those beautiful Zoom video type videos where the kids get to sing all by themselves and be on screen and hear their solo voice. And if you're not good at doing that stuff now, ask Lauren, because she'll be able to teach.
Hannah is the one that knows about Zoom, and we'll hear about that in a minute. Hey, Michelle, what do you have for this?
Really what I like is, again, you've got to keep in mind you've got different kids. I love hearing about the people that had Zoom classes with their kids. One lady was just saying she had about 120 second graders. And she said, but it was really fun. But at the same time, you've got to keep in mind that there'll be kids that will not be able to go to that Zoom meeting because, number one, they're sharing the iPad with the 3 other brothers and sisters, and there's other Zoom meetings going on. So my sister is also a teacher, and her students were telling her that they really also like the recorded lessons. So, for me, I, could give my kids assignments going through Quaver, but it's also nice to have a recorded part where they can learn and you don't have to be there on the screen with them. So if maybe they can't get to something until 5 o'clock in the evening when mom comes home from work, they can still do that. But what one of them also said was she recorded their Zoom meeting also, because the ones that couldn't attend, got to see the other kids.
Mm.
And even though they didn't get to be there with them to talk with them, it was just nice to see the kids.
Mhm.
So keep in mind, give them many different ways. Don't just focus on just one way to teach with your kids. Maybe, I know, maybe there's a school district, a school district that may say, you know, you are not going to be able to interact with them. I heard from teachers saying they jumped on to Zoom meetings with the second grade teacher, the third grade teacher. Maybe you didn't even get to say anything, but you just got to be there and say hi, and the kids saw you. And that was
Michelle, that's an excellent point. And I even read on Facebook about one music teacher, and I wish I knew his name. He was talking about how he started a recess Google Classroom where
right.
the kids can just come and not do academic work. They can just come and hang out. And I
Mhm.
think that's a good way to build community. So Katie, what are you going to be doing to prioritize your teaching standards?
Again, I'm going to really try my very best to focus on keeping with, again, the normality of what I would normally do. And the good news is I structure with, you know, things like EGBDF or, you know, things that wouldn't normally be, you know, that might be focused on instruments or things like that, towards, you know, hopefully farther back, but using the both components, using the online component, using the in-class component, anything that I was really looking forward to creating. I'm going to be using a ton of my book lessons. If I can get my kids in front of me and we can use some of my book lessons, and then if I'm not allowed to maybe sing that refrain, perhaps I just, you know, either sing it to my kids and they don't sing with me, and I sing with a mask on, or I record myself singing it. And as I read the book live to them, then we get to listen to Mrs. Miller sing it, and we listen to it in our heads, and we show the pitches. If it's anything that I can get to be able to allow them to make music, but what Denise was saying, there's going to be a ton of creation going on, which is exactly what they were doing at home during this time. There was a ton of things that my kids were creating all by themselves. And I love the instrument kits. I definitely know that your administration probably has a ton of data based on what families had things and what did not, you know, they had and they had not. And I think it would be really important to get that data from your administration as soon as possible, or collect whatever you have. We had a music teacher that did her own data, and this is how many families, and this is how many second graders, and this is how many third graders. But I plan on just emailing my you know, assistant principal and saying, what families did we not hear from, or what families really struggled, or what families only had the paper packets, so that I can make sure I know my families that are going to be able to log on to those Zoom meetings, and I know those families that are going to be able to do that. But I want to make sure, or that can create those, because one of my favorite things was they created their own instruments in their families with stuff that they found around their house. I had a little first grade girl. We did oral, you know, being able to identify the instrument family orally. And then, so I was off camera and would play the instrument and say, okay, what family was that? Well, I just told them that the assignment was they had to make instrument, you know, give me 2 instrument families that, you know, with things, whatever, membrane. And so some kids, you know, gave me a thing and they were like, this is the wooden family and this is the metal family. And then I said, great job, that was wonderful, yay. But this child found 4 different things we have the membrane in the younger grades, membrane, metal, wood, and what am I missing? Shaker. And she quizzed me. Like, she got off camera and she was like, all right, Mrs. Miller, which is one? And she disappeared. She played. Y'all, I was in tears. I was absolutely in tears. And I sent it to everybody, all of the teachers of our school. And I was like, look at this. It's Isabella and she's adorable. And look at how great she did. I had one student who created all 4 instrument families out of one thing. So like, he took a box and he tapped the box, and then he tapped the box, and that was membrane. Then he shook the box and he had something in it for shaker. And then he I don't remember what it was, but it was like the box on the other side was metal or something. And then he tapped that and he tapped it with a spoon. So it was metal. And then he took a piece of, I don't even remember. I think it was probably a chopstick, and then tapped the two chopsticks together. But then he also plated in membrane. But he
Katie, I think that's so interesting how our students, you don't get to see that when they're in the classroom, because a lot of times what we do is so structured. And so this really enabled students who were ready to take it to the next level. When you leave something open-ended like that, they can really show what they're capable of. And that's really cool. I can't wait to try it, Katie.
It's been an incredible opportunity that we just don't see, as you said.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you know that would be such a great advocacy tool? To show people just what your kids are doing. I mean, let your principal know, see what this kid made and how creative and inventive it is. Oh my gosh, you can't deny that went up Bloom's taxonomy just by what that kid did right there. So I think this is also a great time for teachers, music teachers, to show the rest of your faculty just how amazing and everything you do with the kids is. So don't
Michelle, I thought you were going to say that having our students make loud noisemakers at home was great advocacy with their parents. And I was going to say, I don't know about that.
Yes.
I don't know. I'm joking. They love it. Hey, Hannah, you have been manning the message boards, Hannah.
Yeah.
So do you have a question for us from one of our listeners?
I do. Okay, so Rebecca, let me find this again. Rebecca wants to know if there is an online link that has instruments like congas and drums and that kind of thing that kids could use on an individual Chromebook or an iPad.
I have 3 real quick that I'll share. One that we always have on the iPads is called Bongos. It's by Skunk Brothers. It's got 2 tones of drum and little drumsticks that they can click, so they can get 2 different pitches. Oh, it's got a cowbell at the top. I like the app Easy Xylophone. It's not really a xylophone, it's a glockenspiel, but you can play 2 notes at the same time. Some of the xylophone apps will only let you play 1 pitch, and that's also Skunk Brothers. And then the last one, of course, is GarageBand. Who else has something cool to share about that?
Music Play Online has virtual xylophone, virtual metallophone, and we have a piano actually, so that you can teach sharps and flats. But I think that's a great idea, and I think adding some additional virtual instruments is something that would be quite fun. We have a rhythm composition tool where the kids can choose triangle, they can choose a drum. I can't remember. There's 4 different instruments that they can play, but they have to create the composition first. So the sounds are there. I think making the virtual instrument, it would be, for my amazing team, they could do that.
Ooh, I can't wait to see. Hey, Michelle, what do you guys have?
Well, we have an Orff library, so the kids can choose what instrument is. Now in class, hey, it worked great for me because I had 2+ classes together, so I could also use iPads and Chromebooks and have them play, and so they could at least practice what it was until their turn to come up. But they could also use that at home. We also have composing and rhythmic ideas where they can use different instruments to create what they need. So there is a lot of things out there for the kids to use.
And Katie, any ideas that you've used with your class? I know you've been doing a lot, so we're not going to hold it against you if you're not up on this one.
No, in the classroom and in the virtual, I used Music Play a lot. Their instruments, and in my classroom with iPads, we used GarageBand, and I opened that up to my students. There were a couple of them that were able to download it, obviously, because it usually costs money. And so some of them were able to do that, but most of my children were able to utilize Music Play online and used a lot of those instruments.
That's awesome. I can't wait to dig into Music Play, Denise, and see all the cool things you have. I've been hearing great things. Maybe it was true. Hey, I'm going to move us on because we got about 15 minutes left in our hour time, and I know we got a ton of cool stuff. Oh, Hannah, go ahead.
Oh, it's okay. It's along the same lines as instruments. Condria wanted to know if we have any special sanitizers for Orff instruments or classroom instruments. Just along.
Is it
we were on
Andrea Gay?
Yes.
Andrea, hi, it's good to see you. All right, anybody sanitizers for your instruments?
I checked the NAFME website. And if you go on the NAFME website, they've got a whole section on disinfecting instruments. And what they're recommending is something with at least 70% alcohol in it, not the kind you drink, but 70% alcohol, so it disinfects. And I think the thing we have to be careful about, you need to read the instructions on this disinfectant as to how long it needs to be on the surface to be effective, because just a wipe doesn't do it. That wipe has to be there at least 60 seconds is what Lysol says. So I don't know how doable it's going to be to have a class, back-to-back classes, play the same instruments. I think maybe what you might have to do is to plan to rotate your kids through. So class number 1 gets Monday mornings. They get to play the instruments. In the afternoons, class number 2 gets to play. On Tuesday, it's class number 3. And in the afternoon on Tuesday, it's class number 4. I think you're going to have to kind of schedule it out so that those instruments can be disinfected properly between uses.
That's perfect. And Andrea, remember that you're looking for 70% alcohol. You might already have that in your kitchen. That's something the kids might have at home. No, their parents. Anyway, so now, Hannah, are we ready to move on?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. So now we're going to focus on where are we going. And the first topic we have are performances. So I'm going to kick this one off talking a little bit about our district musical we have in Alvin ISD. We do a musical with students from 8 different campuses. Well, we have a central, an east, and a west musical. So the one that I direct has 8 campuses. They're all Title I schools. We practice in the summer with the camp, and then we tour those 8 schools and perform for the entire student body. That's not going to fly this year. So we've been on the phone with MTI. My friend Colleen Lane-Grebe called MTI, and they have some really interesting information. They are going to be giving permission to record and distribute through a streaming service. So if you have bought an MTI show kit and you have big plans, they do have a plan in place for streaming. So if you go to the MTI website and go to their COVID tab, you'll be able to see everything that's coming up. And I'm ready to get that green screen out because we bought Aladdin Kids and I can't wait to see what that genie can do. So Hannah, let's jump to you. I want you to tell everybody about your Zoom musicals.
Sure. Whenever when we, of course, the COVID thing hit, we were 1 week away from my little first graders doing their Bugs musical, and everything was ready to go. We had just not put it on the stage, and so I actually put it on Zoom, and we did our musical on Zoom. And my husband was actually the one that first suggested it, and I came back with all the answers why that was not going to work. And he said, just stop and think about it for just a second and just see if you can make it work. And I had to readjust what I thought of as a performance. I think sometimes we as music teachers set our sights and our expectations really high, which we should. But sometimes you also have to just kind of adjust expectations a little bit. And I realized that what I wanted them to do was to be able to sing for their families, and for them to be able to say their lines, and for them to be able to be seen in their cute little costumes. So we got on a Zoom call, and the first time I did it, obviously I have done it a couple of times now, so we've gotten a little bit better, we've practiced. But the first time that we did it, we just got on and they were in their costumes, and I played the music through my computer screen, and I muted all of the kids. They sang along to the music with their parents and just sang it to their parents. And then when it was their turn for them to say their line, then they held down their space bar, they said their line, and then we went to the next little kid. And it turned out great. It was definitely not like it would have been if it had been on the stage. But I got to see a different side of that I don't normally get to see, because my back is always to the parents. So being able to see the parents' faces as they were watching their kids was fabulous. And being able to see how excited the kids were. Some of them would say a line and then they go, yeah, like they would go and stuff. It was really fun. And also some of the parents sent me video of them videoing their kids while they were saying it. It was just a different viewpoint and perspective that I had never been able to see before. And it worked really well. I was even able to do a solo on one of my musicals. I had to stop and think about how to do it. But once again, as we said earlier, if you give it enough time, you can figure out how to make these things work. So I started the song to where she heard the opening part. I stopped it right whenever she was supposed to come in. She sang her solo. While she was singing, I scooted the little bar over in my iTunes music. And as soon as she got to the part where the rest of the kids joined in, then I muted her and started the music and we rolled. And it worked really, really well on the Zoom screen. So it definitely is possible to do. It was quite fun.
And now we as a group are going to perform Bugs for you. Hold on, let me get my costume. Totally joking. I'm the stink bug. Hey, Denise, do you have anything you want to add about performances?
You know, I think you've covered it. I think I saw just a fabulous performance on Facebook and YouTube of Ain't No Mountain High Enough that a teacher had put together. And I think that method of recording the students and then combining it into one video is a technique we're going to have to learn.
And it's real hard. It takes a long time. And if you've got administrators pushing you to do some kind of virtual group where you have to record everyone, maybe you want to attempt to do something like what Hannah did. It's not, they won't hear the students, but I think it's more important that they're making music with their families and they're engaging their community. And so you just have to turn it around and say, maybe it's not so important what we're hearing, but what the students are sharing with their families.
True.
And that might be a way you can prioritize that. Hey, Katie, any ideas about performances?
So I did something very similar to what Hannah did, because we were also working for kindergarten and first grade to we don't really do a musical. We do something called Night with the Arts, and we have a theme, and we just have each class do a quick small song, and then we have a finale song, and then they go to their classrooms and they create an art project with their families. Obviously that did not happen, but we had learned one of our finale songs was pretty much in the bag. We had it pretty much down. And so I was able to we didn't get to put all of kindergarten on the screen, but I did go into individual kindergarten class Zooms, and they sang their song, and I actually put the words on the screen because this was like 4 weeks into our virtual learning, and I was like, these poor babies don't remember any of this, you know. So it was me and I was singing so they could hear me, but they muted themselves so that it wasn't obviously lagging. And then and we sang it, and they sang it for their families and whoever was around at that time. And they really enjoyed it. They loved it. I also did for my advanced, we call them jammers. And they sang one of their pieces for me, and I put them together in iMovie, and we were able to send that out we use Class Dojo as a school-wide communication tool. So I was able to put it on Class Dojo so that everyone in the school could hear it, so that it would be kind of like a concert format. My hope and goal for the upcoming school year is to try and do as much performing as we can in whatever capacity they will allow me to do it. And so my goal this summer is I've already decided what we're going to do for our winter concert. I have planned, just like we are going to do, we're going to be doing Jungle Book Kids, and I've already ordered it and it's in, and I have my binder and I'm really excited. And I'm going to make as many videos. I feel like the blessing in this entire situation is it didn't happen in the beginning. It didn't happen at the beginning of the school year. For us, it happened right at our spring break. So we just never returned after spring break. But it happened at the end of the year. And that means that this summer, we have all summer. Now I know you need to take a few weeks to disconnect, okay? I promised my husband that I wouldn't turn on my laptop for like 5 days. Now I haven't started that 5-day stint, but it's going to happen at some point, probably when I'm in North Carolina with my parents or something. But you have all sorts of time now that it's summer to record these things, to get them prepared, so that the kids have those practice videos or practice audio tracks. I'm going to utilize my website and have kids do that. Maybe you don't have a website. You make a YouTube channel and you put them onto YouTube. You can, like what I did with my weekly videos, and then you send it out and you say, you know, this is I hope to do Zoom practices where I'm being able to show that choral example, the vowel shape, to make sure that they're doing what they need to do. For musical practices, if this is going to be the case, if I need to sit there and have a conversation with maybe we do a scene with Baloo and Mowgli, and I can't remember another character right now, but one of those three characters, and we have a quick Zoom practice where we all have those, you know, facial expressions, and we practice our lines, and we, you know, practice that song or whatever it is we need to do, because who knows when it's going to stop, you know what I mean? And you want to make, you know, let's say that, you know, whatever happens, and then we're able, and they roll out the red carpet and they're like, all right, you know, either back to normal or, you know, like they're doing it in phases, phase 1, phase 2, you know, phase 3, we're now allowed to sing together again. All right, great. Well, guess what? We've already been practicing all of these tracks, and so everything can still stay, you know, together. But the great news is that you've got the summer to prepare all of that. So you're not a hamster on a wheel when
school starts.
You know,
and Katie, I'm going to throw out there, I think I mentioned earlier that MTI has all that information on their site. They are doing a webinar. So they're going to explain how you can use all of their music and their information virtually, and what are the rules when you're filming and presenting. And I really hope they say I can put Aladdin and Jasmine on a green screen, on a carpet, on a whole new world. Let's cross our fingers. Hey, Michele, anything about performances?
Hey, oh my gosh. I mean, just go on Facebook, and we've had so many teachers that have done Quaver musicals using Zoom, just like Hannah talked about, and Katie. You know, keep in mind, it doesn't have to be a big production. If you don't want to do a big one, do a small one or try something different. Tracy Patterson down in Fort Bend just showed everybody that she did a masked singer little thing, and it was with the teachers in her school. Wouldn't that be cute if you had your kids do that? And for especially those kids that are very afraid to be recorded, you know, have something up in front and then they could perform. That would be so much fun. I encourage your kids to get out and take those favorite songs. We've got a song called Unique that the kids are loving to sing. And some of the kids have gone out and performed for their neighbors. They had like a little karaoke machine, and they went out on the street with everybody, you know, out there watching and listening, and they performed. You know, those things are so great. I love, love, love the families that have created their own found sound bands and see them join in, play that rhythm. There's one where one little kid's got it going on, and then little brother comes in. It's like, wow, he's actually kind of good. And then it kind of keeps going, and they're just creating whatever they can. So I love the performances. You know, we all have something out there that the kids can perform on. We've got it. There's so many things, ideas, but give them that opportunity. Yes, it takes a lot of prep. Like she said, you know, getting ready over the summer, practicing with your kids, but it is very doable, and I think you're going to enjoy it in the end, and so will your kids.
Michele, would my neighbors like it if I did a performance in my driveway?
Where you
nice.
live, where you live,
Oh, I'm in the country. I can do whatever I want. I could be creative in costuming. Denise, what did you want to say?
I just wanted to say, you should try and get permissions from your parents as early in the school year as possible to do video and be able to share it, because I think they're teachers like Katie, you were a week away from your performance. If you'd had all those kids on video, you could have maybe put it out there as a performance. Mm-hmm. So I would be getting permissions to video my students and videoing as much as possible so that I have at least video ready for a performance if it gets canceled.
Denise, that's really smart.
Yeah.
Now I know why you're in the webinar, you smart lady. Hannah, what's up?
I also did want to say I utilized Google Classrooms an enormous amount. So I created a classroom folder, and that's where I loaded all of my scripts and my videos. And that way I could send a link to that classroom folder, and they could find all of those things. There went my little puppy. They could find all of those little things they're in one spot and they were able to access all of it. Another kind of performance idea that I saw, somebody did a performance parade where they had each of the kids record a specific song, or like they were doing their recital, and they loaded it onto their Facebook page. So then every single parent was able to watch and comment. And once again, we're just changing our expectation of what performance looks like. Performing is important. That's what we do. And there are lots of opportunities. We just have to rethink what that looks like.
And it's very important that you're checking copyright and what companies are allowing before you broadcast. The great thing is a bunch of companies have allowed you to use their materials. Like, I know a lot of you know Scholastic is letting people record their books. Me and my family did a great recording of I Want My Hat Back, where my son played the instruments and did all the voices. And it was a way to involve my family. Katie, I know you got a whole basketball team at home that you can put to work, maybe in green screen, recording some cool stuff for your kids. So we care about you listeners so much that we're going into overtime for this last topic. We're not just going to cut you off. We're going to go into overtime. So the very last thing we want to talk about is involving your community. And as always, I'll talk first because you can't make me stop. One thing I think is really important is getting to know your families and where they're from. My school has a large population of students from Central America. So what are they singing at home? How do they already make music as a family? Start there and involve your community in the awesome act of making music together. Because while we might not be able to make music together in the traditional way at school, they can do it at home. And this is a unique opportunity we have to really strengthen the musical bonds in our families and our communities. So Denise, what do you want to say?
I would agree with that we need to find out where our students are at, where they're coming from, and just give them opportunities and tools. So Music Play Online, we have a wonderful ukulele section, a guitar section. We've had teachers learn how to play the guitar during this pandemic because they have a little bit of extra time. So I would encourage family participation in as many ways as you can. I know this is a little off topic, but I also had a couple of teachers who didn't get the recorder orders in early enough to send recorders home to students. And so that's another thing I would suggest for teachers early in the school year. Recorders, I think, are going to be okay because they're a small bore instrument, not much air goes through them. You're going to have to order one per student. They can't share, but order them early so that if a second wave comes and we get shut down, you can at least send those recorders home with the students that you would normally teach recorder to. Maybe
and teach them
earlier.
to play a song before you send it home, or it'll be like my kids. The one year I didn't, and I was a new teacher, and they kept coming back saying, it got thrown over the fence. Well, who did that? My dad. It got broken in half. Who did that? My cousin. I was like, oh, this is a rookie mistake. That's a good point, Denise. Thank you so much. Michele.
I'd already talked a little bit about performing for the people around you. Another really good idea that you might want to think about for your community is learn from your family and your relatives. What were the songs that they learned growing up? You know, those folk songs that maybe we haven't really touched on in, the school setting, but it may be a community song that is sung. This is kind of their opportunity to learn about musical history, musical styles, things like that, to reach out to, hey, what kind of music did dad listen to when he was my age? Things like
that's a beautiful generational connection.
But
I'm serious. It's nice.
It really is. Hey, when you're, FaceTiming grandma and grandpa, talk to them about, what kind of songs did you sing? The other day, my husband had a song stuck in his head, and I looked at him, he goes, wow, that's been a long time since I've heard that song. And I said, yes, it is. It's a very old folk song. And it just popped out of his head. So getting your parents and the older generation to contribute, gets the kids to like more different types of music.
Who are you calling old, Michele?
I know, that's why I went.
Everybody, now that nobody has their hair dye, we all know how old everybody is. I didn't say that. Hey, Katie, what do you have to add?
Well, I agree. One of the favorite things, so before we did, we used Canvas and modules, and we were, before all of the Zoom was all set up and everything, I had prepared a bingo chart. And this bingo chart had a ton of, it had a lot of music play options on there if they had a screen, but I made sure that over half of the bingo chart had nothing to do with technology. And we thankfully had Class Dojo in place. So all mom and dad had to do was send me a picture of their child doing the bingo thing, or maybe they wrote to me and told me how it went. And one of the favorites was interview your parent, or teach Mrs. Miller a song. Teach me a song that I might not know, that maybe your grandma or your grandpa or your mom or your dad, or maybe you create one all by, my son created a song and made one up off of the top of his head, and because he wanted to get it over with so that he could just check it off of his checklist, but whatever, it made him create. And they created one for me. And so there's, to be allowed to, do that for to get that extra part in there, I think is such a blessing for us, because normally, the only time that we're going to see our community is when they come and see their kids, and they don't want to see us. And quite frankly, I don't want them to see me. I want, I say, welcome to the concert. I'm going to say a couple of announcements. Practices are over. Now let's get the kids singing, and then they don't want to hear from you anymore. But here's a great opportunity for you to be able to hear from them in their own comfort zones. You know what I mean? They're gonna feel comfortable sharing with you. If I asked mom to sing me a quick song after the spring concert randomly, she'd look at me like I was crazy and then walk away, or run probably. So you want to make sure this is looking at it as an opportunity, and making and that ability to be able to connect. I haven't felt this close to so many of my families probably in my entire teaching career. I have had long conversations with moms and dads and grandmas, and one grandpa, and a big sister who was in charge of taking care of her siblings' education. And I really was able to get to know them and understand more about where they were coming from. But then, I gave them some, and then I said, okay, well, that's not, I maybe gave them an assignment, and they said, well, we don't know that song, or we can't get the video to load. And I was like, no problem, make one up. You sing a song about, the song's about friends in the sea, sing a song about the octopuses. Find one on YouTube or find one on your phone that somebody else is singing, learn it, learn 2 phrases of it and sing it back to me. Because ever since I started teaching, my friend Stephanie, who I worked with for quite a long time at my church, we live by the phrase flexible and fabulous. I need to get a shirt made. I need to get some merch going if anybody has a connection, but our phrase is flexible and fabulous. And if you remember that flexibility is the most important thing, and you are giving it to your families in a gracious, and because I say fabulous, but really it's grace. It's understanding and meeting them where they are, and not having your expectations and them try to meet your expectations, because as Hannah already said, our expectations are high. As music teachers, they are, but we have to not lower our expectations, but just differentiate them. We need to make sure that our expectations are reachable and then successful, because you don't want to discourage the families from doing what to participate. You want to encourage, but the only way that you're going to do that is meet them where they are. They're going to be able to, grandma's not coming home until 9 o'clock at night and can't do it until, whenever. That's totally fine. No problem. You give it to me when you can, because as far as I'm concerned, I would much rather my student participating in any way as opposed to no way. So make sure that you are flexible and fabulous.
And Katie, I think, Hannah, we have a new inspiration that the new name of our webinar is Flexible and Fabulous. I won't do the splits on camera. I don't want to embarrass anybody, make you feel bad about yourself, but hopefully you're flexible. So Hannah, we are now almost 10 minutes over, but is there anything else we need to talk about to make this the best webinar that ever happened?
There was one other question from Velvet, and she asked for any suggestions for how to be able to keep a choral program going in the fall. And I think we touched on that a little bit about flipping the classroom and being able to sing at home or sing in a different way. But if anybody wanted to expound on that, that was the last question from the audience.
I've really enjoyed the Acapella app. I want to say it was a small fee, but I went into my classroom and got out, I think it's like the 150 rounds and cannons or something. It's like
the red book.
It's a pink book. I have the pink. Maybe it what might have been red at some point, or maybe mine's so old it just turned pink. I have no idea. But I've used it and it's, you know, got all the tabs in it and everything. But I took that book out and I sang every single canon I could possibly think of with myself. And I plan on I already downloaded them and I have them all. I even learned 2 new ones that I didn't know before. And I plan on utilizing those in my choir. And again, I say that my groups are called jammers. So I do an eclectic where we sing, but we also play Orff and we play recorders and we run the gamut of everything. We perform anything and everything. So I feel like it would be so helpful for them to be able to watch the videos. And I already did, we did some towards the end and I downloaded them and I said, okay, the first time you watch the video, sing the first part. And then the second time, sing with second Mrs. Miller. And the third time, sing with third Mrs. Miller, or, you know, and try out those different things where we're always, quite frankly, I plan on using them when I'm able to sing in front of my children all the time. And
we're all going to have great sub plans when we go back this year.
That's exactly what I was going to say. One of my colleagues, Erin, she goes, you know, I'm making all of these things, but it's going to be great sub plans one day. And I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even think about that. That's amazing. So I can just sing with them and I'm not even there. So that has been really helpful. But again, my goal is to make sure that I'm utilizing and making videos so that they still have that good quality sound. I've been, you know, Zoom concerts, I've been editing in iMovie to be able to do their own songs to kind of sync it up. I'm thinking about maybe doing online practice sessions where, you know, maybe we can, you know, have an online practice time where we all get together instead of, you know, after school, it's at 3 o'clock and we all get on and everybody, you know, all the jammers are on and we sing together, but in muted versions. And then we record ourselves later or something along those lines. Any way that I could record the child, maybe we're doing a half time, and what Denise was saying, record as much as you possibly can, because then if we do have to go back to, you know, nobody on campus at all, you know, you might have somebody already done and ready to go. I think that we'll be utilizing that a lot. But as far as I'm concerned, however they say I'm allowed to sing, I'm gonna sing. So you tell me I have to sing it this way, that's the way I'm gonna sing it. If I can push that envelope, and of course safety, I'm gonna push it as far as I possibly can so that I can hear my babies singing and making sure that they are singing. So the fact that they say no singing, we know that that's not possible, because if anybody told me I couldn't sing, I would laugh in their face and then say, I don't think you understand what I have to do to survive as a human. And that includes singing. So that is true for most of our students. So just remember, look at what they're telling you that you can do. And if they are saying there's no singing in front of everybody, then figure out a way for them to be singing for you at home. Find out how they can do it, whether it be on a Zoom video, whether it be, you know, I'm thinking about those tests, you know, those like 3 tri boards My school's got 1 billion of them because during testing season, they put all of them up. So I say, they're now my singing boards, and my kids will sing in front of them, and it'll catch everything that they need.
And it'll be so awesome.
And it will be so weird, but it'll be still, I'll still be able to hear them. You know, and I don't know nobody knows what's going to be allowed. But I say you come up with the craziest and weirdest things and see what sticks.
Here's a weird one. I was wondering if I could get one of those clear umbrellas that comes down and sing inside that.
Yes.
Oh, get the clear bubbles. Put them all in those little bubble things.
Yes.
They can roll
a
around.
personal shower curtain.
Yeah,
one of those clear liners. Hey, anybody else on choir?
You know, we've, like she said, you know, any recordings, we've got recordings that the kids can sing along to their favorite songs. You've got to keep them singing.
And don't forget all the other things you teach in choir, because you're teaching community, you're teaching respect, you're teaching teamwork, and those things can still be taught in a different way online. So be sure you're manufacturing ways for those kids to connect, whether it's with social time online, where they can still become part of a team and trust each other, because, you know, as a singer and a voice person, that's one of the biggest things whenever I sing in a choir. It's the connection I feel with my neighbors. So don't neglect that. And Denise, I don't want to leave you out if you have anything to add.
I was just going to say, the teacher in Belgium said she is allowed to sing with her children. She's just not singing loudly. I've seen the Alberta guidelines, and they are recommending against any children's choir performances. But I think that's because we stand our kids close together. What they said in the Alberta guidelines is that you can't have any more than 15 people in a classroom singing at the same time, and they can't be looking at each other. They have to be facing in different directions. So I'm waiting for a little more clarification on these guidelines. But I think some singing may be possible. Someone suggested we teach melodies through kazoos. And I've got a toilet paper roll kazoo that I made with a toilet paper and a rubber band around. And that way the kids would be singing right into a little thing. And at least you can teach pitch matching with that. And like Michele said, I mean, in Music Play Online, we have a wealth of choral material, and it's all got tracks. So if you end up starting something at school, and then you get sent home partway through the year, the kids can still continue to access that via their student login when we go back in the fall. It's going to be an interesting year.
It is, and we're all going to be saving our toilet paper rolls to make fancy kazoos now. Or your paper towel rolls and cut them in half. That is a great idea, and I can't. And it sounds like your Alberta guidelines are a lot more specific than anything I've seen in Texas. We just don't have anything yet.
Right.
I think they're more strict. They're really, really strict. And in the whole province of Alberta, I mean, space-wise, we're a big population, not like Texas, but we've only had 20 cases this week. So they've really contained the virus well here. And I guess maybe they have to continue to be strict to keep the problem down.
We had something put out by TEA where it said there were no wind instruments and no singing in summer school, but I don't know a lot of people that teach summer school choir, so we're just kind of waiting to see what comes out for the fall. That's what everybody's doing. So we're all going to be flexible and fabulous. We're going to save our toilet paper rolls. We're going to be on the hunt for 70% alcohol, and we're going to practice our disinfecting. Hannah, is there anything else we need to talk about while we're all here?
I think that's it. I want to say once again a huge thank you to you ladies for giving your time tonight to come and speak with all of us. And once again, flexibility. Thank you to our audience as you're going to be watching this link later. I apologize so much that our YouTube live didn't work.
Great technology.
And I do want to say, as you're seeing my living room behind me, I'm a music teacher just like you, and I just had an idea, and I put these wonderful ladies together, and it's been me, myself, and I putting this together, and every time I run into a problem, I Google it, and I try to figure out what in the world to do next. So we had a practice this last week where we put it to YouTube Live, and it worked. And because you wonderful music teachers have been so excited about this discussion, I had over 600 and I think 70 people register for this. And so because I had so many emails going out of my Gmail account, they thought I was a bot. and they shut down my YouTube live. So I apologize and thank you, our audience, for being flexible and fabulous. And
You were so perfect. They thought you could only be a bot.
so we will definitely make sure that this gets shared, and we are also planning on sharing all of our panelists' information so that if you have questions and you want to be able to reach out to them, you are able to do that. So once again, thank you to you guys.
Thank you, Hannah, for setting this up.
Thank you.
Good job.
Absolutely.
Well done.
Been wonderful.
Let Hannah be your inspiration. If you come up with an idea that sounds kooky, it sounds like getting out the testing boards and singing into it, just try it, because you never know. You might shoot a random message out to all your education heroes, and then they'll be like, yes, we want to chat with you on a webinar. And it's very exciting. We are all going to send you off with a big flexible and fabulous.